Connell McShane in with you this week for Cheryl Casoni. Also, on top of that, joining me for the hour are James Frischling. Jim is the co-founder and president of NewOak Capital here in New York, and FoxBusiness.com's Dunstan Pryal. Before we get to all... Yeah, it's interesting, Nicole, because we were looking at the headlines as you're speaking, as Ashley was speaking. There are more failures coming across. Another Spanish bank, I believe, was on the failure list, and some of that was expected. I know Jim Frischling follows this pretty closely, and you guys do over at NewOak. The market has been, to some degree, on edge, but to some degree expecting the results, and we saw a little bit of bouncing around as Nicole was outlining for us. Stress tests in Europe, how important for us here in the United States?
Well, I think in early '09, when the U.S. went through this exercise, it was actually deemed essentially the turning point in the financial crisis, and the tests were deemed to be credible. So I don't think there are any surprises today. I think people were looking for it. I guess the credibility of the test is really now going to be debated. But I do actually think this is people do want to see it.
Well, our test gave us kind of transparency, right? And we said, all right, now we know, let's move on. And you're right, we saw the market rally, and we saw a lot of that. And you're saying maybe not in this case. Go ahead, Dunstan, I know you want to say something. Maybe we don't have that credibility or transparency.
Yeah, maybe Ashley could help me out on this as well if we could bring him back in. I'm curious.
He's there.
But there's any cynical element to this, that this was sort of accepted and done as a confidence booster. The expectation was already there. Oh, look, we are doing fine. Was there any element to that going in?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if majority of these banks go through, then the critics are going to say, the stress test was just way too weak. It was not stringent enough. And there again, if you have too many failing, then that's a major concern. So the markets are going to sell off. So you want something in between. Yeah. The big issue is, what were they? This sovereign debt issue is something the traders didn't like. They say you're not really considering the possibility of a default. And as we've seen what's been going on, that is still a possibility, but it doesn't account for it in these stress tests.
And fair to say, Ashley, no huge surprises just yet. Is that fair?
No, that's absolutely fair. We're still waiting on the Greek banks. Maybe one of the big five could fail this test, so we're waiting on the Greek banks.
I'm actually going to move on for a second. We can stay on this, and we'll watch how the markets react to talk about the banks in our country. The story.